This is WIPULP, Pembroke Pines, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, The Rock Church.
Estás escuchando Radio La Roca 106.3 FM. Radio La Roca.
This is our time. Welcome to the Ryan Crossley Show. Here we are, Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, and we are excited to be able to be a voice in this critical time, to be a voice with everything that's going on. This is our new show. Thank you for connecting. Last week, we had a great interview with Keisha King, and we will be doing a whole lot more of that as we progress in this program, and it's just exciting to be doing the Ryan Crossley Show. And this is our show in English. On Tuesday mornings from 7 to 9, I do another show, Good Morning, on the Rock with Pastor Ryan Crossley. But we've got to do something in English to be able to reach that audience. And so all of those that are listening to us, we're so thankful. I see Gabriel Moshela is connected, recent new member coming to our church, actually was a pastor in Argentina for many years. So we're thankful that he's connected. All of you can connect online on our Facebook and our YouTube. You can look at our channels, Radio La Roca 106.3 FM, Radio La Roca 106.3 FM. Also our church page, Iglesia La Roca of Hollywood. It also has this show live. So we're just excited to be doing this, and this is our second show, but I am so excited to do it. It gives me a time to talk about things that are passionate. I'm passionate about. Sometimes we talk about so many things in private, but like I said last week, I want to be a voice. I feel like it's critical that we be a voice in our society. I don't personally, I don't adhere to the idea that just because we are Christians, we shouldn't talk about politics. And I'm not asking you to agree with me on that. I'm just telling you that's how I feel about it. I feel like we need, like never before, we need to speak up. There is way too much immorality. There's way too much of an attack on Christian values. And by the way, Christian values is what the United States of America was founded on. I don't care if you like that or not. I really don't. I don't care if you agree with it or not, or if you feel like it should have been that way or not. But our founding fathers had Christian values. That's why they did what they did. That's why they began this beautiful, wonderful country that we live in. They had Judeo-Christian values. Now, we have strayed very far from that, and it is unfortunate because Judeo-Christian values bring a lot of positive things into people's lives. And I think that it is critical that we speak up. So here's the point. If this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and those values are being attacked and they are withering away in our society because of agendas and policies that are definitely not moral or not things that would be what we as Christians value or support, why would we not speak up? So my cry or my call is right now to every single person that is hearing me, you need to speak up. You need to speak up for the Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded on. If we don't fight for it, we are going to lose it. If we don't fight for it, we are going to lose it. So that's what this program is about, and we're just going to have just 1 hour to talk about these things. I greet everybody that's connecting. I see that people are connecting from Bethesda out in El Paso, great church out there. People connecting from Queens, New York, and overseas. We have a great following from overseas, and so we are thankful. Now, I do want to start this program talking to you about a very personal experience that I just had, but that I think speaks loudly to the problem that we are facing. This last week, I had the opportunity to be in San Francisco, California. Amazing that they accepted me there, being from Florida. But I went to San Francisco, California to speak at a conference, and I got there a day early with some gentlemen from our church that were traveling with me, and they had never been out that way. So I thought, well, let's do the San Francisco thing. Let's go down Lombard Street. Let's go to Pier 39, Fisherman's Wharf. Let's go to Alcatraz, not to stay there, just to go visit. Let's do this, And so we did. We went there, and we weren't able to do it all. We just had basically one afternoon and a little bit of the evening. But let me tell you the eye-opening experience that I had in San Francisco, and it's just a telltale sign of where we're heading if we don't get a grip. We were there in San Francisco, and there's a parking lot called the Triangle parking lot. I've parked there many times in the past. I actually, honestly, to all of our listeners, I actually love the city of San Francisco. I don't like their policies. I don't like those that represent that place, but I do like San Francisco. It's a beautiful city. It's a unique city. And so I was excited. I was like, man, this is great. I'm going to be able to take some members of our church to see iconic areas of the United States of America. They weren't raised here. So to me, they were just fascinated about going to Alcatraz. So there's a parking lot there called the Triangle parking lot. And I've parked there many times before. So I went there to park, and I got out of my car, and I'm getting ready to go to pay at the little booth to put the ticket in my car. And as I'm walking to the booth, the one of the members that was with me, he says, "Pastor, I don't know that this would be the greatest place to park." And I asked him, well, why not? And then he pointed out there was a car right next to ours. It was actually a 15-passenger van that the window had been busted out. I mean, completely busted out the side window of it, and you could see that they had tried to steal whatever was in it. So I agreed with him. I said, man, this does not look like a good thing. Well, here's the kicker. as we started walking back to the car and looking around the parking lot, there was a minimum, I'm telling you, a minimum of 15, if not close to 20 cars in that small triangle parking lot right across from Alcatraz Landing. There was at least 15 windows of cars that had been busted out and people had tried to steal stuff. All these, and my eyes got open. I saw all these people kind of sitting by their cars waiting. I don't know what they're waiting for because cops never showed up. But so we decided, well, let's go park in a parking garage. And we did. And we went to Alcatraz, came back. Everything was good. My major mistake was later on, when we came back, we decided to go eat and went to a different area of the city to eat. And when we parked, I looked on the side streets, parked in a metered parking spot, looked like it was okay. Went half a block down to the restaurant we were going to eat at. Hour and a half, we ate, came out. I got in the rental car that I had, and when I sat down, I realized something was wrong. I look in the back window of our rental car had been busted out, and some thieves had taken my backpack. Well, in that backpack, I had my laptop, my iPad, my headphones, some very important paperwork, and probably the most valuable thing was I have a Bible that I am studying with my older son in mind. And I'm writing in personal notes in that Bible, and that got stolen. And I thought, man, I'm never going to be able to give my son the Bible that I'm writing for him. Now, I could tell you a whole lot more, but our time is short today in this program. Long story short, we called the police. We stood there for probably 15, 20 minutes. Police showed up after we had to leave because I had to make a choice whether to try and find my stuff or not. And one the gentleman, there was a gentleman there that had seen what had happened. He said, "Hey, unless it's a murder or a shooting, the cops aren't going to do anything about it. This is happening every single day here in San Francisco. All they're going to do is give you a report for insurance purposes." And I understand that on the cops' part. They probably don't have time to chase down. I mean, if it's 20 cars in one parking lot, and there was on that side street when we parked later on, there was a few cars that had been smashed and grabbed. The cops don't have time to be chasing down 40 to 50, if not hundreds, of those every single day. But so we actually, the craziness was, and I don't declare myself to be the bravest person in the world, but the crazy thing was, we decided we're going to go get my stuff back. And so I used my Find My iPad app on my phone, and I saw my iPad moving around, so I could tell that whoever had stolen it was taking it somewhere. And we were able to finally chase it down to a neighborhood. Now, here's the thing. Here's what I'm getting to. When we got there, when we got to the area where it showed my iPad was, the disaster that has become our Democratic metro areas was on display like I've never seen it before. San Francisco, it was so sad. I mean, so sad because San Francisco has always been such a beautiful city. It's always been such a nice place to visit. It's been just an iconic thing. But now I'll be honest with you. I told my family when I came back, I said, I really don't have a desire to go back. I don't want to go back because they have the policies, the Democratic leftist policies are destroying our beautiful metro areas. And this is not just San Francisco. We're talking Los Angeles, New York. I had a list yesterday of the 10 top cities. Listen to this. 10 top cities of homelessness in America. And the 10 top cities, 6 of them are in California. 6 of them are in California. New York, Phoenix, I think Denver, I just read an article this morning. They're shutting down the main park there in Denver because they're finding human waste everywhere, needles, drug needles everywhere. It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Long story short, we were able to, by the grace of God, we were able to recover my stuff, believe it or not. It was, I think, when I was able to tell the thieves who I was, and they just had mercy. I had to pay for my stuff to get it back. But the truth of the matter is, we got the stuff back, and it was. I'm very thankful for it. And actually, to be honest with you, I was blown away because the next day on Friday, not the next day, but because that was Wednesday, on Friday, somebody actually turned my book bag in, and I was even able to recover all the other things that had been lost. So I'm very, very thankful for that. But my point was this, and this is why I wanted to talk about this. Our metro areas, especially in Democratic run areas, and I'm not going to say exclusively, but I am going to say especially. So big difference, exclusively and especially. But there are so many homeless people that are taking over these beautiful cities. And it's not, listen to me, it's not because everything is, it's not because, how do I put it? Everybody's not legitimately homeless. Now, I'm going to clarify this. But what it is it's an enabling problem. Let me just say this. I'm very thankful for all of our social services programs. I'm very thankful for all of our social help programs. I do believe that there are people that 100% need it. They need those programs. They hit hard times, and they are not able to afford the basic necessities in life. And that's what those programs are for. I don't like welfare mentality, but I understand the need for welfare. I understand the need for something like food stamps. I understand that. And I support it as long as it's done in a right, controlled way. But when we're doing what we're doing, you know what? Here's a perfect example. You know what they were going to bring to the table the very week that we were there in San Francisco? You know what they were going to bring to the table? This. They were going to say, we're going to pay criminals, go research it. They're going to pay criminals $300 to not commit violent, it's insane, to not commit violent crimes. Okay, so now, this is how nuts the system has become. So now, we're going to pay you to not commit violent crime. Do you think they're going to stop committing crimes? No, they're going to walk away with the $300 you gave them and still commit crimes. So I had a first-hand experience with a city that I once loved to visit, and now, to be honest with you, I would not go back until I would know that it's cleaned up. It's not safe. Listen to me. It's not safe. I probably was not the smartest person going to try and recover my stuff. I'm glad I did it because I got my stuff back. Believe God was with me. But it's not safe, and it's sad. I want to take my kids to New York City, but I'm not going to take them to New York City. I want to take my kids to Chicago, but I'm not going to take them to Chicago. I want to take my kids to L.A., but I'm not going to take them to L.A. So, well, you're just living in fear. No, it's just that we are living in a time where unless changes are made, our cities are going to be destroyed. You can look down Los Angeles. I'm not talking block after block, mile after mile. It is tent city, rampant drug use. When I was there in San Francisco, one of the residents there, one of my friends that lives there, he said it would blow your mind. They literally give these people maps of where they can defecate on the sidewalks and where they can. I mean, they're literally giving them places where they can go to the bathroom right there in the city. Not bathrooms, mind you, right in the city. It is absolutely crazy. Now, here's the thing. You say, well, why are you talking about this? I'm talking about this, and I'm going to try and get everything that I can. But we are spending money. We are spending money in an absolute ridiculous way. They just passed, I believe the vote was 69-30 in the Senate. They just passed a $1.1 trillion spending bill. It's going to go back to the House, and believe you me, the House is not going to be happy enough just with the 1.1 trillion. Now they're going to feel like there's fuel to their fire because they really want 3.5 trillion. Some calculate even 5 trillion of what they want in their spending bill. We have a 29. We're almost at $30 trillion. $30 trillion in debt. And we're just acting like we can spend money like it's water. What are we doing? It's absolutely crazy and insane to think that we can just keep generating these bills. Do you realize how many trillions of dollars in the last few years have been added to the national debt? If you want to see something scary, I challenge every one of you, go to the U.S. debt clock. I think it's usdebtclock.org, and go look at how fast our debt is rising. Now, they just passed this $1 trillion spending bill. That's not going to be the end of it, but there's going to be, they're going to want more. Now, here's the thing about it. Every one of these spending bills has hundreds of millions of dollars in it that goes to absolutely nothing that the spending bill was supposed to be about. This spending bill is supposed to be about infrastructure. Well, infrastructure is roads, trains, it's transportation. It's, I don't know about you, but every major highway that I go on, it just seems like never-ending construction. But it goes to, the infrastructure bill is supposed to go to all of those things. It's supposed to go to those types of things. But in every single bill, only really a small percentage goes to what they're telling us it goes to. For example, in this infrastructure bill, they're playing with vocabulary. Because when you think of infrastructure, you think of construction, you think of buildings, you think of edifices, you think about transportation. That's what we think about, planes, trains, and automobiles. But they now have a new terminology, human infrastructure. Well, human infrastructure, that's a very vague and general term. Now, that can be anything. We can throw hundreds of millions of dollars of the study of transgenderism. We can throw hundreds of millions of dollars to the climate change, and I'm going to point that out in this infrastructure bill. A whole bunch of it is to go study this religion of climate change, and I call it a religion of climate change. If you'll research it and study it out, it is definitely you've got to twist a whole lot of things to be able to come up with what they come up with to do what they are doing. And so when you start changing the vocabulary, now you can throw money at whatever you want. And just on a side note, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you some points. I actually found this on the Heritage Foundation. 9 things you need to know about the Senate's $1.1 trillion infrastructure bill. I think it's important for you to know this. And especially because the Democrats are going to want even more money for other ridiculous things. But before I mention that, one of the things, I'll give you a perfect example, and it really kind of made me mad a bit after being in San Francisco and seeing what is going on and where the money should be spent. In fact, the place that we were staying at, the conference I was speaking at, they told us, they said, the two hotels we normally put our speakers up in, we cannot put our speakers up in this year. We had to stay 25 minutes away from where the conference was because of one reason. The hotels that were where the conference was being held, the hotels, two of the hotels had been turned into basically homeless shelters. They didn't buy them. They didn't buy the hotels, but the government imposed on these hotels, the local government imposed on these hotels that they needed to take all these homeless people into their hotels, and they are a disaster. They're nasty. The hotels are run down now. And so we couldn't stay close to the conference because both hotels are now filled with people that are homeless. Who do you think's paying for that? Where do you think the tax dollars are going? Well, Mrs. Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, you know what she wants to do with your money? She wants to give $200 billion to the Presidio Park. Now, the Presidio Park is beautiful. It's a nice thing. It's if you don't know what the Presidio Park is in San Francisco, it is a park that is over by Golden Gate. It's very nice, but it doesn't need $200 million as much as the city needs $200 million to be able to deal with a problem. Now, I will tell you this, for example, when I was there and I had this situation where they stole my backpack, we called the police. We literally had 3 police cars drive right by us. I was waving them down, trying to get them to stop. Didn't stop. Drove right by us. 15 minutes we stood there. Then when we finally left to go try and recuperate my stuff, while I was talking to the guys that had stole my stuff, because I found them, we had another few cop cars come right by. All kinds of homelessness, all kinds of thieves and all kinds of things there, and it just drove right by. And I can't really blame them. And the reason I can't blame them is because we know that they are not going to be supported by that local government. So now here's 9 things that you need to know about the $1.1 trillion infrastructure bill. And this is from the Heritage Foundation. Number 1, it adds hundreds of billions to the national debt. In the notes here, it says the national debt has increased $5.2 trillion since the start of 2020. In other words, like $40,000 per household. We're at a tipping point. We're at a $0.30 trillion, and we're just going to pass hundreds of billions of dollars more into the national debt. And we're not motivating people to go back to work. We're not motivating people to be productive in society anymore. I read a statistic the other day that in the next 10 years, they're basically saying Social Security will be out of money. So because they keep pulling from that to pay for stuff, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we cannot keep going that way. Now, I'm a pastor, so yes, I'm going to talk politics on this show. It's something that I do talk about and I enjoy. And as an American, I'm on this show as an American, concerned for my country. But the Bible says this. It says that the borrower is servant to the lender. The borrower is servant to the lender. We cannot continue borrowing the way that we are, creating debt the way that we are, and be able to stand. At some point in time, probably sooner rather than later, the entire system is going to collapse, and we are going to be slaves to something or someone, the people that own our debt. We are, in a way, slaves to our own selves right now. The borrower is servant to the lender. You can't just keep borrowing money. We can't hardly pay the interest on our debt. We're at a point where we can't pay the interest on our debt. So number one, it adds hundreds of billions to the national debt. I've been talking about Afghanistan. I've been talking about COVID. I've been talking about all this stuff on my shows. But let me tell you, the biggest undercurrent, the biggest problem we have under the surface, and it's not so much under the surface, is we cannot keep spending money this way. The government would never let you live financially the way they live financially. Never would. You could not borrow, you could not pass a $1.1 trillion bill, much less 3.5 or even higher. You could not do that if you were already $29 trillion in debt. And yet they do. They don't care. They're just going to, I don't know what we're leaving for our kids, but we are adding hundreds of billions to the national debt. Number two, things you need to know: fake and inappropriate pay-fors, or in other words, what is called pork. We had that with one of the other spending bills where $25 million went to the Kennedy Center in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of where you had to shut down your small business because you couldn't open up because of COVID. They were given $25 million to the John F. Kennedy Center. Those are beautiful places. I have nothing against those places, but there is a time for everything, and that is not the time for that, especially if you don't have the money for that. So there's a lot of pork in this. There's all kinds of things that are being put in this bill that are under the guise of climate change and the study of that. There's the sale of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve here, it says. There's a lot of things that are going on. Number three thing you need to know is the $1.1 trillion is just a step ladder to try and set up the $3.5 trillion left-wing bonanza, is what heritage.org says here. And there's going to be all kinds of things that have nothing to do with infrastructure. For example, giving amnesty to illegal immigrants, expanding welfare benefits, trying to push forward AOC's Green New Deal agenda. Number four, heritage.org says massive amounts of wasted transportation spending. For example, $2 million per year for bee-friendly landscaping, $50 million per year to combat weeds. I got a good way to combat weeds, but $50 million per year to combat weeds. Number five, it embeds, and this is critical, it embeds climate activism. What does climate change have to do with infrastructure, transportation? But it embeds it into the Department of Transportation. So now money that you think is going for the betterment of infrastructure, well, we've got all of these emission issues and pollution issues, and we've got to go for alternative types of energy. And I'm all for doing what we can, but it is being proven more and more that this alternate type of energy is no safer for the environment than regular petroleum. One of the clues to me was a few months back, and this is just personal, but a little while back, Elon Musk decided to not take Bitcoin anymore for Tesla because it was damaging to the environment. Well, how is cryptocurrency mined? It's mined by computers. It's very powerful computers. What do those computers use? They use electricity. It's all electric. And so, it's damaging to the environment, the amount of electricity that is used. So it's not just fossil fuels. Even all the electric energy has its own way of damaging. So number six, corporate welfare for the energy sector. Well, of course, that's the thing that we know, right? There's a lot of corporations that get kickback. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive here, but when you look at the representatives and the senators, they're always one of the things that probably they didn't like so much about Donald Trump was he wasn't beholden to anybody, any special interest groups, where a lot of times they are. They want to pump money back into their states, and I understand that as representatives and senators, but you have to consider the impact of that, especially to our national debt. Number 7, it applies social justice approach to broadband internet. So now internet is going to be a social issue. Number 8, wasteful protectionist mandates. So this is basically, it's going to put more burden on a business, more, and small businesses included, because you're going to have to, it's going to have in there what is actually meant for roads, bridges, and other infrastructure is not going to be spent as wisely as it should be. And so this is going to basically cause projects to cost more than they normally would, because the bids are going to be higher. And the last thing is modest progress on reducing red tape. These are things that are in the new infrastructure bill. So I just, at some point in time, we've got to wake up and realize we cannot keep spending money like this. The Lord told the nation of Israel when they would go into the promised land, he basically, in a nutshell, was telling them that they needed to be the lenders and not the borrowers. They needed to be the lenders and not the borrowers. The United States of America, the dollar, has been the world's monetary measure for so long, but it is in desperate shape right now. And we need to get back to wise spending. We need to be good stewards. And so why do I bring this up is because you need to help, and by calling your representative and your senator, and if you don't agree with what's being done, then you need to give your voice and your opinion. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you have been paying attention or not, but it looks like Senator Rand Paul was right all along. I'm switching gears right now, but it looks like Senator Paul was right all along. I've enjoyed listening to him. And so I want to, this was last night, Sean Hannity, whom I enjoy listening to. I think he's a great journalist or reporter, and has a good view on things. There's a video clip here because more and more is coming out about the Wuhan lab and the gain of function research that was being done. No matter how much they deny it, it is coming out that it definitely was gain of function, just like Senator Rand Paul has said. And so I'm just going to play, the clip is about 7 minutes long. I'm just going to play little pieces of it and then interact with it because I think it's important for us to know what is going on. And why is it important? It's so important because so many times we just swallow things as though they are the way that they're saying it is. Fauci basically kind of became a voice of authority, and nobody questioned the things that he said. And yet, over and over, there's been flip-flopping. There's been a change. Things that were said at the beginning that then were changed. Now they go back, and this is all in the name of quote-unquote science, although there has been no consistency through it all. And so just recently, yesterday, there was some things that came out that have now basically implied that Fauci was lying under oath. And it's so sad how all of this has been politicized because hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives in this pandemic. And it is very sad to understand. I don't know if you understand the magnitude of this. Gain of function research is basically taking viruses and manipulating them to make them more contagious and to where the human body is less less able to defend against it. And according to the video clip you're going to see, basically Fauci said this is wonderful research, even if it does cause a pandemic, even if it were to escape the lab and cause a problem, they valued the research. Well, that's pretty crazy. If you lost a loved one, if you lost a friend to COVID-19, I would be kind of upset that they were basically mad scientists there trying to manipulate a virus and make it more dangerous than it would have been originally. So let's look at this a little moment. I think we have the clip ready. Do we have the clip ready? All right, let's watch a little bit of this, and I'm going to probably pause and go back and forth, and so you can see what Sean Hannity was talking to Rand Paul about yesterday. Go ahead.
Now breaking today, explosive new reporting on 900 documents seems to reveal what is a massive lie from Dr. Doom and Gloom flip-flop Fauci, because look at this. According to the Intercept, the NIH did in fact fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Virology Lab. Now, with the newly obtained documents showing that the NIH issued a bat coronavirus grant in 2014 and 2019 to EcoHealth Alliance for a total of $3.1 million. They then subcontracted with the Wuhan lab. In other words, that's where your money went. And around $600,000 was used in part to identify and, yes, alter bat coronaviruses likely to infect humans. That's called gain of function. So it looks like tonight Rand Paul was right all along. Dr. Fauci was not only wrong, but
Okay, so I just want to pause that for a moment so that you can understand what Sean Hannity is about to talk to Rand Paul about. Basically, your money, your tax money. Now, I watched when Dr. Fauci called Rand Paul a liar over and over, and you're about to see that clip. And one of the things you need to understand about Rand Paul, I'm no doctor. I'm just a pastor. But Rand Paul's a doctor. He's got an understanding of this world in a way that I wouldn't. And he knew what was going on. And he repeatedly grilled Dr. Fauci about the money that was granted to the NIH to perform gain-of-function research. And now it is being proven that your tax dollars, 2014, 2019, did go for that. Let's watch a little bit more of the clip and watch the interaction here.
He knew he was wrong. Yes, the U.S. You did fund gain-of-function at the Wuhan lab. But there's even a bigger question tonight. Did Fauci lie to Congress?
There you go.
Here's what he said just back in May. You might remember, and you might be able to decide. We'll let you.
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Do they fund Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund
Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrick does not do gain-of-function research.
And one of the scientists that talked to the Intercept, Dr. Richard Ebright, he tweeted, quote, the documents make it clear that assertions by the NIH director, Francis Collins, and Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Okay, so I remember this interaction very well because I have been pretty vocal about all of the manipulation and all of the things that are going on with COVID. It is insane to think about. For example, I have a sister who is a nurse, and I'm thankful for, let me just give a shout out to the Cleveland Clinic because they have stood behind their first responders, the nurses, those that have worked in this area. They've stood behind them, and they are not mandating them to take vaccines. But there's a lot of nurses, a lot of people that worked in hospitals for a year and a half unvaccinated, taking care of people that had COVID, that now, if they don't take a mandated vaccine by their hospital, mandated by their hospital or the state in which they live, they're going to lose their jobs. And yet here, we have somebody, I remember this interaction very well, watching this. There's been so much manipulation behind the scenes. And so in this case, what is gain of function research? Gain of function research is taking that virus and making it more powerful, more contagious, more manipulating it in such a way that that it can do or infect in a way that it couldn't have either before. And the accusation is very strong. The accusation is lying under oath. Now, lying under oath is a criminal offense, especially if you're talking to Congress. And in this case, Dr. Fauci repeatedly said, and completely and categorically, he likes to use those kinds of words, he completely and categorically denies and tells Rand Paul that he's completely wrong about it all, and yet now papers are coming out that prove otherwise. Let's just watch a little bit more, and then I'm going to close up on this topic as our time is running short. But go ahead.
The NIH did not support gain-of-function research or potential pandemic pathogen enhancement at the Wuhan lab are untruthful. Fauci needs to be fired immediately and now also investigated for lying to Congress. But I guess that only happens to Republicans and conservatives. If they lie to Congress, then you get 30 guys, tactical gear, pre-dawn raid, and sometimes even fake news CNN cameras. And of course, all of these explosive findings bolster the evidence supporting the lab leak theory, the theory that Dr. Fauci downplayed, even as he was warned as early as January 31st, the same day Donald Trump put his travel ban in effect, the racist, xenophobic, and hysterical one in 2020. Meanwhile, Joe Biden and his cabal of failures.
Okay, so I want to just go ahead, and I'm going to stop it there. This is why. You say, well, why are you talking about this? We've heard about this. Well, I think that it's important to talk about because there's an article, for example, of officers that are going to lose, they either have to take a vaccine or they lose their jobs. 200 officers. There's people that are being refused medical attention unless they've been vaccinated. There's all kinds of things that are going on, and it just seems like no matter what, there's going to be a new variant to keep everything going. I was reading something, and I just thought it was interesting. College sports are back on, especially college football, which is one of the probably most highly attended types of sports events in the United States of America. Our college football stadiums are some of the largest stadiums that we have in the United States. And, thousands of people this last weekend filled stadiums and were cheering on their teams. And they were doing an interview, I think it was in Newsmax. They were doing an interview of, I can't remember the gentleman's name that had attended some of these games. And they asked him, they said, when will COVID be over? And I understand with what I'm about to say, I understand COVID is a virus. It is real. It has caused a lot of mayhem, a lot of death. At the same time, I always go back, and I know people don't like this, I always go back to the mathematics. The numbers don't lie. And that is, even at the highest age risk, you're still over 99% that you are going to survive this thing. The problem is, obviously, it is front and center every single day. All of us have either gotten the virus or we know people that have, and I'm sure that pretty much all of us that are watching this show have somebody close to us that we've lost. And because of that, due to that, it is front and center in our lives every single day, as long as we let it be front and center in our lives every single day. Because they asked this gentleman, they said, when will it be over? And he basically said, COVID will be over when we say it's over. Now, he did. Obviously, we cannot just, okay, I'm going to mind over matter here. COVID no longer exists. That's not what he was saying. What he was saying is it will only control our lives as long as we let it control our lives. Let's take, for example, influenza. Every year, miraculously, right? Miraculously during COVID, hardly anybody's died of the flu. The numbers are down like by 90%. Because everything's being classified as COVID. Even the CDC numbers themselves let us know that 94% of the deaths that are COVID related have at least 2.9 comorbidities. So I go back to that. I know it's not popular. I know people don't like to hear that because it hurts. This last week, we had a member of our church, an extended family member of theirs, pass away, complications of COVID. So with what I'm saying, I'm not trying to sound like an insensitive person, but I do go back to the math and say, how long are we going to let this control our lives? And that's what it's all about. It's all about control. The reason this thing just keeps going and going is because those that are behind it have understood this is a way to control your actions. If I control your health and I control your money, I control you. And I can manipulate you however I want. And that's what's going on, is the control of health and the control of money. It is a path to a socialistic agenda. But I liked what this gentleman said. He said the virus is over when we say it's over. And I go back to the example of influenza. A few years back, let's go a few years back, because I did this study some months ago, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, on one of my radio shows. I did this study because of the push to vaccinate children. I've got 4 boys, and I don't appreciate the push to try. I'm very worried that they're going to try and make this a requirement for our kids to go to school. That's why more and more people, 10%, I was hearing today, 10% of those that have gone into public school, the parents have withdrawn them and they're doing homeschool because they're sick and tired of everything that is going on. They're sick and tired of their kids being, treated as though, being controlled with all the mask mandates and everything like that, when the numbers just don't add up. But I did this research, and you can go to the CDC website and figure this out. You can go to the numbers and figure this out. I went back to 2018 because since the pandemic started, from 0 to 18 years old, since the pandemic started, the amount of children that have died due to complications from COVID was like 357. It was something like that. This was several months ago, but it was in that range. And that's deaths from COVID, 0 to 18 years old. And so I don't know why, I decided, let me see how many kids died from the flu in the last normal flu year. And so I went back to 18 and 19 because we can't really count 2021 because everything changed. But if you go back to 2018 and 19, the amount of children 0 to 18 that died from COVID, from the flu, not COVID, was 470 some odd numbers, 470 something, and which showed me that more children 0 to 18 died from the flu in 2018-19 than children 0 to 18 died from COVID 20 to 21. Now, what's my point? Absolutely horrible and tragic that any child should die. But my point is, this guy said it's over when we say it's over. If we reacted to the common flu, and some years are worse than others, if we reacted to the common flu every year like we've reacted to COVID, it would be front and center in our lives, controlling every aspect. At some point in time, we're just going to have to understand that as much as we can, we're going to treat this thing. As much as we can, we're going to deal with this. But we cannot allow it to control and every aspect of our lives. It is changing the world, but not for the better. I think COVID has made humanity kind of like the worst version of itself. People are just on edge. They're angry. They're confrontational. They're conflictive. And I'm not exempt from that. I think I've been that way sometimes. And so we've got to finally say to ourselves, it's over. Now, I'll be honest with you. To me, I did that a while ago. Unfortunately, in public and different places that you go, you still have to follow some of the things that have been put in place, just because if not, you can't even go in and out of places. But the truth of the matter is that if we don't at some point say it's over, then what's going to happen is it's just going to control us forever. If it's not going to be the Delta variant, now it's going to be the Mu variant. Can you believe that? There is now a Mu variant. There was always going to be a variant, just like every year, and I hope not. I hope it could be eradicated. But just like every year, there is a variant, a different type of flu that comes, and that's why they do the flu vaccine. And yet, we weren't pushing our kids. We don't require our kids to get the flu vaccine, although it was proven to be more deadly according to the numbers. We have got to, at some point, say, okay, we have reached a point to where we just cannot let this stuff control our lives. It is absolutely horrible to think about people losing college scholarships because they don't want to get vaccinated. People losing their jobs because they don't want to get vaccinated. And they don't want us to get back to normal because, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if we'll ever get back to normal, but they don't want us to get back to normal because then they don't have control anymore. We have got to take the control back. And so that's why we need to be vocal. We need to, let me give you an example of how ridiculous this is, and I'll show you. Again, I was in San Francisco this last weekend, right? And I go to this restaurant before they broke into my car. I go to this restaurant, and they were requiring a vaccine passport. Now, I've got natural antibodies because I went through the virus, and I've been fine. I've been around people that had COVID and were contagious probably, and I've been fine. So I've got immunity in my body that I believe is being very effective, and I have no reason to take a vaccine when I have been fine since I had COVID. So I've been through COVID, so I know what that's like. But I go into the restaurant, and a little paper there to where if I wanted to eat in the restaurant, I had to show my vaccine passport. It's California, of course. I was talking to the host, and the host, you could tell he was just following the rules that have been implemented or forced on them, even though you could tell he felt it was ridiculous. And so I told him, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I haven't been vaccinated. I've got natural antibodies that are working in my favor. I said, but I do like your restaurant. He said, well, if you're unvaccinated, you have to, we've arranged the patio so you can go eat on the patio. I said, well, fine. I'll go eat on the patio. I really didn't want to go look for another restaurant at the time anyhow, and I like that restaurant. So we went to the patio. So the only ones that could eat inside were those that had their vaccine passports, and everybody else, all of us other rejects, had to sit outside. And that's what we're doing in society now. We're classifying people by, you're bad if you don't take the vaccine. You're good if you do. And so we're all sitting outside. Amazingly enough, there's like 50 of us outside, and there's maybe 10 people inside, which tells you something right there. All those that are outside are unvaccinated. The ones that were inside are vaccinated. And I told the waiter, I said, you got a clientele here. You might lose in the long run if you guys keep this up. Of course, I know that they don't have all the power over that. But let me just kind of wrap this up with the hypocrisy and the craziness of this all, and why we need to finally just say, hey, it's over. Yes, we will have to deal with this. We'll do whatever we have to do, but it's over as far as controlling every aspect of our lives, because this is how ridiculous it was. It was one of these Brazilian restaurants where inside they have this beautiful, really nice salad bar, and then they bring around the meats to your table. And so I asked the host, the same guy that had told me I have to sit outside if I'm unvaccinated. I asked him, I said, well, how do we do the salad bar then? I said, how we do the salad bar? Do they bring it to us? Do we tell them what we want? And he said, oh, no. He said, the salad bar, just put your mask on and you can walk in and fill your plate with the salad, and then you can go back out to the patio. Now, is that not just absolutely ridiculous, folks? Where is the logic? Where are the brains? Where is just the common sense that we need to have? I can't sit in the restaurant because of my, I don't have a vaccination passport. But I can put my mask on, walk to the salad bar, walk right by the same people that are sitting inside, fill my plate up, and walk. But then I got to walk outside to be able to eat. That's just kind of the crazy stuff that we're dealing with. It's hypocritical, it's illogical, and it is a little bit ridiculous. So at some point, folks, we are going to just have to stand up. And we're going to say, you know what? This is our time. It's over. We're not going to we're not going to let this thing control our lives every single aspect. I mean, we're talking about everything is being changed through this. And those that want to keep pushing that, they're just going to keep everything going as long as they can until we wake up and we say something, until we stand up. And I thank God for these people that are standing up and saying, we're just sick and tired of it. And until we do that, it's going to control every aspect of our lives. Well, this has been the Ryan Crossley Show. I don't think I got through everything I wanted to get through, but hopefully it's been a little bit informative to you. And more than anything, just stand up. Don't just swallow everything and not do anything about it. We got to stand up, and we got to stand up now. We got to be a voice in our society so that our lives, can somehow get back to some sense of normality. I don't think we'll ever go back to 100% normal, but let's make the best effort that we can. God bless you, and thank you for connecting to the Ryan Crossley Show. We'll see you next week, Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. Have a good day, and may God be with you.